We all want love, but most of us don't want to date to get it. Because let's be honest, dating sucks. But maybe it doesn't have to if we actually know what we're doing. Hi, I'm Kira Sabin, and this is Reinventing Dating, a smart and sweary podcast for all singles to learn the mindsets and skills to date with intention and confidence. Join me weekly as I break down the science and psychology behind what's working in our dating culture and what isn't. Every week, I bring a new topic, trend, skill, or mindset that can help us get out of our own way to learn how to date for relationships that we actually want. Because love isn't broken, but dating is. But I'm reinventing it. Let's do this. Well, hello there, Sugar Pantses, and welcome to another episode of Reinventing Dating. I'm Kira. We are back for our that's right, fucking eighth week in the series of common dating questions from a modern and healthy dating perspective or lens. Stop the insanity. 8 episodes. All right, guys, I'm going to start this week off with a personal story. And if you've been listening to this podcast for years, you know that I do share personal stories pretty regularly, and many of them make me look like an asshole. But I am happy, I don't know about happy, but I am willing to look like an asshole if it helps other people not be an asshole. But I have been having conversations recently on this podcast and with clients and just in general that really lead back to the topic today. And I want to fucking shake some tables. I want to have people have some aha wake up moments because I think that's needed right now. And I'll tell you, this conversation, I am bringing myself, I am outing myself first and foremost to tell you how A, I have done this, B, how it hurt, and see how we can fucking do better. So I'm going to actually go back in time here and go back to 2009, 2010. This was a time when I was just starting my business. I was actually writing and speaking at colleges a lot. I had a college blog called The College Crush, and I particularly was talking to young women about dating smartly in the college age range. And during that time, I was connected to some different online media. I wrote for Huffington Post at the time. I wrote for a couple of other major media sources when I used to write more instead of podcast. And I ended up developing a friendship with my contact at one of these sources. Now, I was single at the time. He was married. He was a little bit older than me. We ended up forging a friendship that went pretty deep. We ended up having hour-long conversations just about life and love and relationships and things like that because A, that was what I was talking about every day and was fascinating to me. A friendship that I will full on say now never crossed any lines. However, I now know that I would not feel comfortable as a married woman in a friendship like that. And I don't know if I'd feel that comfortable with Danny having a friendship like that. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I will also add that he talked about some of the struggles in their marriage. He talked about them being unhappy. He talked about him not sure where it was going, which is like crack to a lonely single who loves to have crushes because it keeps the dream alive. Looking back, that now feels super inappropriate because the things that he was telling me, he should have been talking to his wife about. Or either one of them should be talking about with a professional or together. But I am grossed the fuck out how much we air our dirty laundry of our relationships to people who do not have a right to hear it, should not be weighing in on it, and how little we go to the actual person who is involved. In fact, I will be so bold to say that as a woman, now I don't know if this is conditioning, I don't know if this is patriarchy, I don't know if this is how I was raised, think it's probably a combination of all of them. But that as women, we would rather go talk to another woman to figure out what that meant or what we should do rather than just go talk to the fucking source. That's the absolute truth. There was some entitlement as a single that I think I had that I will talk about a little bit later in this episode that I think that a few of you may resonate with. But at the time, we would just have these great conversations. I had a long distance crush because we never even met in real life. If I'm honest with myself, I was bored, I was lonely, and I definitely had a crush on a person who I had never even met before. And I want to pause here for a second and talk about crushes because for a really, really long time, crushes and I were best friends. And in fact, crushes were my version of relationships, and I didn't even know it. And I did look it up. So, what the definition of a crush is a brief but intense infatuation for someone, especially someone unattainable or inappropriate. And let me tell you, there is no better definition than how I used to act in my life, in dating, in love, and in relationships. I had a shit ton of crushes. Going back to, I would even say middle school, which is where fucking crushes belong. Middle school. But I also found a second definition for crush, and it's actually Wikipedia. And the second kind of other term that's interchangeable for crush is, ready for it? Puppy love. Yes, like the Donny Osmond song from the 70s. One of my good friends is a big Donny Osmond fan. But here's the definition for that. Puppy love, also known as a crush, is an informal term for feelings of romantic love often felt during childhood and early adolescence. It's an infatuation usually developed by someone's looks and attractiveness at first sight. It is named for its resemblance to adoring, worshipful affection that might be felt by a puppy. Oh, I am telling you, 35-year-old Kira is totally offended right now. I am personally offended by that. Next, puppy love typically lasts between 2 months and 2 years, and it is thought to be fueled by pre-adolescent hormones. Ouch. Ouch. Because here's what I know about myself, or the younger version of myself. And I talked a little bit about this last week, and I've mentioned this recently before, but I was very young and naive. My understanding of love and relationships were basically what I saw on TV. I would like people, and my like was actually very much a crush. I wouldn't tell them. I would just spend time with them hoping they would like me back. I never shared my feelings, or very, very rarely. And I would spend sometimes weeks, months, or even years pining for this person who had no interest in me, or no interest, more importantly, in having a relationship with me. That's the thing about crushes. It almost lets us feel like we're part of this dating and relationship world, like we're part of something, but we're never out of the comfort zone of our own mind. I would have these full on relationships with people in my head, and I would be devastated when they would go on to choose somebody else or pick to have a relationship with somebody else, and it wasn't me. I ultimately wanted a relationship, but I never told them. I never expressed interest in them. I never let them know I was interested. Now, I'm not saying that probably some of them couldn't tell, but I would go as far as saying the first time that we met, "Oh my God, you're amazing. We should be friends." And then shocked and pissed off when we became friends. Crazy, I know, Right? I would make up this relationship that we would have in our mind. I would think about spending all of our time together and making out and and a lot of times that's why I would start friendships, particularly with men who I had feelings for. And let me tell you this right now. I was bullshit. I was bullshit. Last week I talked about, can men and women be friends? And I'm like, of course they can. That's ridiculous. But here's the deal. I did not want to be friends with these guys. I didn't. I wanted to date them. I was interested in them. I had some level of attraction and feelings for them. And I would behave badly when they would not choose me back in that way. And I see other people, lots of other people, do the exact fucking same thing. And I'm telling you, this is non-gender specific. I see women do this. I see men do this. I see everybody do this. Because when we are dating, I'm going to say it now, immaturely, which is what the fuck I was, we don't date in the real world. We don't date in real life. It's part of the reason I hate online dating, because it allows us to keep these fairy tales or these stories going in our head instead of just having real conversations, real moments, real feelings in our worlds out loud. One of my anti-sabotage guidelines is I will not have relationships in my head. I will have them in real life out loud. Because let me tell you what ultimately can feel a lot easier. I don't actually know if it is, right? But can feel a lot easier and is a humongous self-sabotage that I have done to myself so many fucking times, is that I like somebody who is 100% unavailable. They're either in a relationship already, they're living in another state or another country. They like me, but they just aren't ready to start something with me. All of these things are either emotional or physical unavailability, and it is my crack. It's like I can smell it from across the fucking room, and I want to have a fucking buffet of it. I don't even know, after years of therapy and years of teaching this in my own work, if I've ever completely fully understand why I do this. But let me tell you how much easier life and fucking dating got when I realized how easy and comfortable it was for me to have crushes on these unavailable people rather than actually fucking try with a real available person. So let's quickly get back to our story for a moment. I remember him and I connecting about an article that I was writing for him, and it was after Christmas. And we had been talking now for months, and I was like, "Hey, what'd you get for Christmas?" I knew he had a wife, I knew he had kids. And he goes on to tell me the story, and he says, "Well, my family got me a smoothie maker." Now, remember, this is like 2009. Smoothies were just becoming a thing. And I'm like, "Well, that's really nice." And then he goes on to tell me they got him a smoothie maker because he has some major digestive issues. In fact, he has severe pain, he has severe digestion problems, and he goes into probably a 5-minute or so story about what's been happening to him over the last couple of years with his health. Like, he's dropped a bunch of weight because of these digestive issues. I believe he's been to the emergency room or even urgent care. This was like 15 years ago, guys. Stay with me. But he was actually even having surgery. This was such a big deal, and it was a reasonably big surgery. And I don't know, because I'll tell you this, it's so funny. Like, sometimes I'll say something off the cuff and somebody will tell me in that moment, or maybe even a year or two later, that that statement shifted something for them. So we're all living and going through day to day. And sometimes something that will mean absolutely nothing to another person will change a perspective for you. And crazy as it is in this kind of like blah, 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 this is what I got for Christmas and here's been what's happening to me moment, I walked away going, wow, how ridiculous am I that I'm having and believing almost in my head that I'm having some kind of platonic relationship almost with this person. And in real life, there's health problems. He's mentioned getting up and vomiting in the middle of the night and his wife having to help him through that. There's multiple upon multiple doctor's appointments. There's worry, there's concern, there's frustrations. There is more than inconvenience. And it was a wake-up call for a not young, by the way, mid-late 30-something Kira that he's having a real life, a real relationship with aging parents, our own illnesses and health issues, parenting, all of these things with his wife and family. And I'm over here in some little la la land 15-year-old headspace about what I think our relationship could be if for some reason in the future he was single. I don't know what it was about that moment. I don't know what it was about that conversation. I don't know what it was, but it was a moment and a wake-up call for me that for all of the conversations that had been having about dating and relationships, for all the people that I, over the years, had shortly dated or temporarily dated or dated long distance, which was what most of my longer relationships were, how very ridiculously immature they were. And I'm going to have a real moment here when I say that one of the things that I have noticed a lot over the many years of doing this now is that when people come to me and maybe they're in their 20s, but maybe they're in their 50s or 60s, and they work with me or they take a group program, and after I get to know them, usually my biggest takeaway from the conversation is not that they're inherently broken, not that there's too much or too little or too fat or too skinny or too old or too young or whatever for love. Not that they need years of fucking therapy, although that's not my job to figure out, and there are some people who definitely need some therapy. But that ultimately, there's nothing really wrong with them. Except that honestly, and here's the truth, they have really immature beliefs, expectations, and very little experience of what true love and relationships are like, are made up of, how they feel, and how to be in one. I had a client in the last couple of weeks where we spent a couple of days together. And I've actually known her for years and years. She reached out to me way younger than most of my clients, so in her 20s. And we worked together briefly back then. And she came back around a few years ago, and I realized, wow, it had been 10 years. And we spent 2 days together, and I want you to be very real with me on what's going on. I want you to dig the fuck in. I want you to give me real, honest feedback about what I'm doing not well or how I'm holding myself back. I am ready to hear it now. And can you do that for me? I'm like, I absolutely can. In fact, I think that is where one of my strong suits is at this point, that I can legitimately talk to somebody probably about 20 minutes, asking a few questions. And you might think I'm full of shit, but this is also what just experience is. And I can tell you at least 2 to 3 things in mindsets or skills that you need to work on. Hands down, this is 16 years of doing this and talking to people every fucking day. I can tell you what's going on. I can tell you where you're holding yourself back. I honestly don't know why more people don't take advantage of this with me, because I don't think you're getting that in therapy. It's different than therapy. But having somebody give you real, honest, and kind, because even though I tell people regularly when they work with me and they'll be like, "Oh, you're so much nicer than I thought you would be." I'm like, "You know what? When I'm on the podcast, it's just me talking to no one, right? Talking to this microphone. So I just speak openly, directly, somewhat bluntly because I'm not talking to someone specifically. But when I'm talking to someone specifically, when we're talking about your own personal experience and story, I hold space. I am kind. I am almost a downright marshmallow. But I also tell you what your friends and family don't either know how to tell you or don't really have the background in and truly understanding or knowing. And we did 2 half days together. We got together 10 a.m. and met for 3 hours, which is a fantastic amount of time to just dig the fuck in and really get somewhere. And at the end of it, I'm like, "Here's the truth. Here's the absolute truth. This is 2 steps away from you. And the only thing that's holding you back is your inexperience and kind of your weird shame around inexperience, as well as very just unrealistic expectations because you just haven't been in a relationship before, like a real relationship." And I hear this all the time. And I see this all the time. And for sure, one of my main sources of clients are people who are maybe divorced or single parents and don't want to make the same mistakes that they made, don't want to choose the same kind of people, and want to do some work and healing so that they can make better choices and do it better moving forward. But the second group of people I work with are women who, by the way, are completely who I was, which kind of prioritized other things in their 20s and in their 30s even, and come to me maybe in their late 30s, early 40s going, "Well, fuck, I didn't prioritize this. I did not make this my goal. And now I've been single for a really long time. I'm really used to my life, my habits, my patterns. I don't know how much I want to move them because I'm comfortable. I think I want a relationship." But when I talk to them, as much as maybe they are successful in their careers or some of them own their own businesses, maybe they're successful in social change and action. But then when we talk about love and dating and relationships, I realize that they're talking about it like they're still in high school. Their knowledge of how this works and who's a good match for them is very little. And they've now built up this relationship so fucking big in their head that there is no human way that a person can live up to these expectations. They now have such a perfect image of what they think that relationship should be, should look like, should feel like at any given time, that anytime it feels weird or uncomfortable, they're out. Or it's just not the right one. Or next. We want the finished product that we see other people have. Fuck, there are just like some online relationship goals I love. You know who I love? Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon. Even though she spells Kira wrong, I'm gonna love her for it anyway. They're adorable together. They just did a little viral TikTok dance together, wearing like the same flipping clothes. There's other relationships that I emulate online also that I have for years. But what I see people doing is attaching their dream and their story to a relationship that people have already worked through the shit, through the power struggle phase, have had to get real, have had to get fucking vulnerable as shit. There's probably been a lot of tears. There maybe have even been some therapy. But we want a finished product without any of the work, without any of the uncomfortableness that real love and relationships just are. And if you listen to this podcast, I am the first fucking person Considering this podcast is called Reinventing Dating, and I've been discussing love dating and relationships for 16 years. I'm the first person to say you do not have to have a romantic relationship for happiness. In fact, I did a podcast about it just a couple episodes ago. But I do want to say, if you know you probably do want a relationship, if you want a partner, if you want possibly a family, that is 100% possible for you. There are 100% people out there for you to create that with in a healthy and wonderful way. And you will have to do the work for it. And you will have to let go of the I'm so sorry, puppy love, immature, crush beliefs that you have that belong back in your middle school, high school days and nowhere in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or up. Is what you're hoping for a final product? And do you actually get what love is? Because here is what I know now. I now know living with a person, being married to a person. And by the way, I had not really been in any major significantly grown-up relationships before Danny when I met him at 41. Really, when I look back now, I know. I now know, oh my God, those were all a joke. We were both tipping-toeing around each other. And the craziest shit, please hear me as I say this, the craziest shit is I know people who are married and have been married for 20 years who still do not have a connected and healthy relationship. Time does not automatically create that. So since I'm shaking some tables and bringing some truth this week, as I like to think I do every fucking week, let's talk a little bit about what are some signs of immaturity in our expectations, in our dating, and in our relationships that you either might notice in yourself or can notice in possibly people that you meet that makes you say, this is not a person to move forward with, or there's maybe some work I need to do here. Let's get into it. Immature things that people who are not actually looking for love in a relationship may say. Number one, and I heard this fucking recently, I don't want to have to teach them how to treat me. I want them to know. I want them to fucking take the time and figure it out. I'm sorry. I did not realize that love in relationships meant that somebody now was taking on a whole full-time unpaid job of getting to know you when you haven't even gotten to know yourself. That's unrealistic. That's a sabotage, and that will leave you alone and single. Right? So, hey, I don't give a shit if you want to think like that. But thinking like that and that it'll turn into love in a relationship is ridiculous. All right, I am like laughing/crying on the inside because I know how much I'm going to piss people off right now. Don't care. Because I am on the side of love, not on the side of your fear and insecurities. Just as a reminder, but I did pretty deep diving into what are some signs of like immaturity, and a lot of them are the very basic emotional unavailability things. I actually talk about that. I actually teach that. I actually have a workshop about that if you haven't taken, it's $39 and I don't know why. However, in this research, there's a lot of just very stale saying the exact same things over and over again. And I found a comment, I'm just going to admit right now, I found a statement, a comment on Quora. Yes, roll your eyes. It's okay. I get it. However, I think what this guy said is super important and I fully agree with it. So I have no problem reading it right here and now and tell you this is something that I see particularly women do that is keeping you single, that is immature, and is bullshit. So he goes on to say, this gentleman, Charles, far too women seem to believe it's the man's job to make initial dates lively, interesting, entertaining, and memorable. And I want to pause for a second because I want you to think about if that's you. If you are one of many, many women that I talk to who, no matter how maybe feminist you feel or empowered you feel or strong you feel in other areas of your life, if you are still expecting men to pay, to plan, to ask, to do all of the works for initial dating. Now, he goes on to say this: while doing research for a book about being single, I was surprised to learn how many women believed it was up to a man to win them over. It was as if they considered themselves the audience, sitting with the arms folded, thinking, okay, let's see what you've got. As one longtime single woman shouted, I'm sorry, but if a man doesn't show me a good time on the first date, I'm not interested in a second. The problem with this approach is it keeps too many women wasting valuable time chasing the wrong kind of guy, professional daters and womanizers who exude confidence and excel at dating thanks to years of practice. When compared to professional daters, as he calls them, I don't necessarily know if that's completely true, but people seeking more short-term flings, that kind of thing, versus sincere maters, somebody seeking long-term relationships, may seem lackluster, boring, and short on confidence due to the lack of dating experience. And as a result, many of the women I interviewed admitted automatically rejecting seemingly uninteresting men interested in settling down while trying and failing to convince fun-loving, entertaining, challenging dater after dater after dater to settle down. Huh. Listen, I got a tingle down there. That was so good. Seriously, let's talk about this. How little do we critically think about dating? Like, seriously, how little do we actually think about what we do and what we expect and if it makes sense? And then, more importantly, if it's getting us the results that we want. It's kind of funny because I would never say it the way that he just said it. I would never take that exact information and say it that way, but I do not think he is wrong. We have to stop sitting here and thinking that everybody has time to bend over backwards and all the money in the world to date multiple people at once to find their person. And the people should only be men. What the fuck, guys? What the fuck? First of all, let's step back and actually think, does that make sense? If you want a relationship where both people are seen and heard, that both people feel loved, that both people feel taken care of, that both people are sharing house duties, sharing cooking duties, sharing cleaning duties, and then if you choose to have kids, sharing parenting duties, sharing pet duties, all of the other things. Now, if that's something you're looking for, which by the way, according to my social media and what I'm seeing in video after video on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all of the things, that's what I'm hearing women want. That's what I want women to have. That's what I have. It feels really fucking good. That's what a lot of my clients have. They also are big fans of it. How does dating in the way that this man just explained get us to that place? Whatever preconceived notions you have, no matter if you consider yourself the most traditional dater that ever existed, I want to know, I want you to think hard about if that idea of a man doing all the work, courting you, wooing you, winning you over, how that is getting you to a balanced, empowering, healthy relationship. Make it make sense to me. Do we think that the guy who woos and courts, by the way, is probably also wooing and courting a bunch of people because they're more there for the chase and to see who they can win over versus who is going to love them? Something that I said a couple weeks ago, and now I'm saying it all the time. And, hey, years upon years into this is let's not stop dating, but let's fucking date better. I cannot believe, like, I won't go to Cheesecake Factory. I expect guys to do all the things, but I want a partner. I want somebody who's emotionally available. I want all of these things, but I am dating in such a fucked up ass backwards way. How is that going to create the relationship you're looking for? Plus, as a reminder, why men paid in the past is because women were only paid enough to supplement a father or a husband's income. That is not true anymore. I don't know why we think now in 2024, where I believe the average adult is probably going to date multiple people before they find somebody that they maybe want to go in deeper with. I think that's one of the gifts of living in 2024, that we're able to meet, that we're able to date, and that we're able to create relationships that are not expected by society, that we can sleep in different rooms. Fuck, we can have different houses. We can do it all. But that we are still dating in a way that actually never fucking existed and have such unrealistic expectations. Stop saying out loud or deep down believing that you want love if you're not willing to critically look at your role in it. If you're not willing to look at what your expectations are and if they are realistic to creating healthy relationships. Nobody should have to get a part-time job to date. Nobody should have to spend hours planning something to make you feel loved when they don't even fucking know you. The mind fuck behind this is for some reason we believe that somebody who has taken the money or the time or the energy to plan the date actually has intention. You don't know that. They don't know you. You don't know them. So more power to the guy who wants to plan a date. Hey guys, if you're listening to this, I will help you. I love planning fun things. I plan great dates for Danny and I regularly. He does the same for me. It's mutual. It has been from day one. I pay for something, he pays for something. It's always been like that. And in fact, one of my favorite things that I've ever posted on Instagram and got a ton of likes, yet weirdly, this is not the way people seem to be thinking about dating, is this quote from a woman, not from me. And it goes like this. My boyfriend and I go to a new restaurant every Friday night. We both order a cocktail, appetizer, entree, and dessert. We take turns each week paying. Phones aren't allowed during the dinner. We reflect on the previous week and make new goals for the upcoming week. I love it. That got a lot of fucking likes about a year ago when I posted it. But I don't see people dating like that, and I don't see people wanting to date like that. That is immature as fuck, and it's not getting you what you want. Here's the mature way I would love everybody to date. Most of us are dating blind. What do I mean by that? For a very long time, you dated someone down the road, someone from the farm over, a friend of the family. You might have fucking even dated your cousin. Let's be honest. History is weird, okay? There wasn't a ton of people. There wasn't many options at all. So if you are dating blind, meaning you don't know this person well, this is not a good friend of yours, this is not somebody you spend a lot of time with, that first date is not a date. It is a meeting. It is an acquaintance meeting to see if this is somebody you would like to maybe spend some time with again. That's it. They should not pay for you. You should not pay for them. Nobody has to plan it. You do something like a walk. You do something like coffee or tea or hot chocolate. My favorite is ice cream or gelato or sorbet. I'm really big into not complicating shit that shouldn't be complicated. That's what a first date should be. Why would somebody who doesn't know you, has zero understanding if you would possibly be a part of their life or that they're even interested in you or you interested in them, pay for you? I think there's a lot of people out there looking for parents and pretending they're looking for partners. Why would they do that? I mean, literally, we would not expect other people in other situations to do that. Why do we expect it in dating? Now, let's say you have that first meet up and you're like, ooh, that was kind of fun. We had fun conversation. I got to know a little bit more about them. I used Kira's questions, so I fucking had a clue what I was going to ask and it was helpful. I just want us to do it in a way where both people feel good so that we can see if there's actually some potential here. And boy, do I think some weird ass expectation is somebody paying for your first date when they've never even fucking met you before is surely a way to sabotage and be really immature and not really want a relationship. How does that make it make sense, everybody? Make it make sense. From the moment that you decide that you guys want to date each other, from the moment that you decide this is a relationship, you get to decide who pays for what, how this goes. But that's a conversation between two people, and it's going to be different for everyone. And if you're just blindly dating with these ideas that you and your best friends have thought about since you played Marsh or Mash on the bus in middle school, as kindly and sweetly as I can say this, grow the fuck up. This is love, my friends. This is grown ass adult relationships. They take more than crushes. They take two people showing up, doing the hard work. And I'm not going to stand aside as somebody who has honestly been doing this for a while and trying to become a thought leader in this industry. I'm not going to just stand aside and pretend like these weird ass expectations in legitimately immature dating is going to turn into the relationships that you want. Next, other things that I've seen people who are immature in dating and love and relationships do. They want their partner to be the source of their happiness and their worth. They think that this person is going to be life-changing in their world to the point of that person's going to make them feel beautiful or attractive or handsome. They think that person is going to make them feel worthy. That person is going to make them feel like a priority when they don't make themselves a priority in their own life. That they think that person, that it's their job to bend over backwards and be their everything. That is immature as fuck. We need a village, man. We need a village. There are multiple people in my life who help keep the Kira float afloat. Danny's a major part of it, right? He's like in that boat with me. But there are lots of other boats that I'm just coming up with this, so just this metaphor is probably crap. But stay with me. There's just a lot of people. But when we do not have a lot of background in dating and relationships, we truly believe that person should be the source of our happiness. And I want to sidestep for a second because I talked earlier on in this episode about an entitlement that I see singles have, that I used to have, that I'm a little ashamed of right now. There is a younger version of me that believed that love conquered all and attraction conquered all. And that no matter, I don't know, I'm not like a total dick, but this is the truth, that no matter the situation or position that person was in, that if our attraction or quote unquote love was stronger, that took precedence. That it took precedence over a relationship they were already in. Please know that I really didn't act from this place too much. Let me say that. But that I can see now that there are situations and just conversations that I put myself in that I'm not proud of. Because I fully believed that because they were choosing to have this certain conversation with me instead of their girlfriend or their wife, because I've dated men, that our connection was deeper and that our love was stronger and that I was then entitled to them. I was entitled to their time, their energy, their emotions, and their love. That is silly to me now. Here is why. Just like I shared that when this guy told me about his struggles with his health and physical, like I said, urgent care, surgeries, shit like that. And I'm like over here going, wouldn't it be fun if we traveled? Like we could watch Netflix together every night and play footsie. Now that I'm in a relationship and a fucking healthy one for that matter, that we absolutely tend to on a daily basis. Now that I have that, I realized how absolutely immature, silly my thoughts and beliefs were. I didn't understand the ins and outs of the day-to-day struggle of real relationships. You guys, and I say this, we don't even have kids. I cannot even believe that people are having children with people that they don't love or trust or know that well. or at least having sex that can potentially lead to children. There was an entitlement I felt that if our love was stronger or the attraction was stronger, that meant that they should be with me. Now, once again, I never really acted poorly on that, but I think I believed it. And I see a lot of other single women believing it. I see them talking to people who are unavailable because they like the attention and they like somebody who maybe is stuck in a marriage that isn't working very well or functioning very well. We like to feel that we can save them. We like to feel like we can fix them. And you know what the craziest shit that we believe? That it would be different with us. That somehow our love, our connection is going to be so much better, so much deeper, that the shittiness in their relationship won't be the shittiness in our relationship. Yeah. Nope, that's not true. If you're talking to somebody who's telling you how unhappy they are in their marriage, and you're not following it up with the question of, huh, that sucks. What's your role in it? Why'd you choose that person? What would you do differently moving forward? Then, my friend, you're in a crush. You're not in love. Because I can promise you this, their lack of communication or self-awareness in their relationship currently is just going to show up in your relationship. Things don't really get that much better with a new person. Sometimes they do, because you learn from your mistakes and you choose better and choose maybe somebody who has more in common with you. More importantly, the same relationship goals and values as you. But guys, the stats for divorces on second and third marriages are staggering. But the last time I looked it up, I believe it's 52% for first marriages. I want to say 68% for second marriages and 72% for third marriages. I like to go back to the stats, not because I like numbers so much, but because I want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass over here, but that there are real numbers that represent real people and relationships that back this up. Here's the thing about immature dating and relationships. You don't have to be immature. When you take the time to learn what a real relationship looks like and feels like, when you take the time to get out of your head, stop having crushes, and start actually dating real humans and not the prince or princesses that you hope are going to save you or you save them, you end up with something that's complicated and messy and feels weird sometimes, and it's definitely going to feel uncomfortable. But you might end up with a partner who's doing this with you. And you might end up with somebody who laughs a lot with you and makes it all a little bit more fun. And if you're super lucky like me, you end up with somebody who does just make your fucking day better and loves to pick up little surprises for me. And it's so awesome. The good news about being immature in dating or relationships is you can change it. That it doesn't have to stay this way, that you can learn the knowledge, create the self-awareness of who you are and what you're doing that's working and not working. That you can learn skills and mindsets and communication and everything else to slowly build a relationship that works. The ones that are hashtag relationship goals. The ones that we see that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years long. But if you're not actually critically thinking about how you date, who you're choosing, what's your role, then there's work to do. And I can definitely do some of that work with you. And I can probably even point you to some amazing therapists that can help you do the other part. Love isn't going anywhere. Relationships aren't either, nor is dating. But you can decide whether you're going to be an active participant in creating healthy and real and mature relationships in love, or if you're just going to let yourself sit in some kind of crush zone for 30 years. That almost happened to me. The best part about pushing myself to do this work with my clients is it pushed me to do this work with myself. So that as things were coming up with Danny, I didn't sabotage it. I didn't run. I didn't lose my shit most of the time. But I also knew how to work through it. I didn't think anybody was going to be my everything. I didn't think I was going to know it when I saw it. I didn't think there was going to be love at first sight. And I created something real. Anybody out there who's listening to this is, fuck, I want that too. Reach out to me. Even if you're like, I don't have a ton of money right now, we will figure out something that you can do to move you forward on this. Love is the long game, my friends. And what I see is most of us are dating in the short game. We're dating based on attraction and emotions and feelings and tingles in the dingles and in the hoo-has, rather than consciously choosing somebody and building a relationship with them. But that love and that security and that trust and all the things that I hear people say they want, they're on the other side of that mature love. I don't even know if you can access them immaturely. I don't actually think you can. Because one or both of your insecurities or lack of knowledge will just get in the way. The second thing that I did to create a different outcome for myself, and this was way before Danny, I had to stop living in just the crushes. I started telling people that I was interested in them. Or more importantly, I just asked them out on dates or see if they wanted to hang out. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But I actually put myself in, I'm going to say, I'm making this a sports reference, which is ridiculous because I don't watch sports. But I put myself in the game. I actually fucking tried. Didn't wait for somebody to like me and win me over. Didn't expect for some person who is also just trying to live their best life to do all of the work. And I tried to make sure that I didn't do all the work on my side either. When I had concerns, I brought them up. When I had frustrations, we talked about it. When I had questions, I asked them. And eventually one of them worked out. But it wasn't because I just found him and we fell in love and we lived happily ever after. It's because we chose it and we keep on choosing it every single day. There's going to be a hard here. And you can choose your hard. You can choose your hard by being a single for the rest of your life. Certainly nothing wrong with it. But it is sometimes a lonelier existence. It really is. I know that. I was single for a very long time. It sucked going to events and parties without having someone with me. But more importantly, and by the way, that's even an immature thinking, because now I don't give a shit. Now I go to parties and stuff by myself. If sometimes Danny has to work or has other things going on, or just because of like my business, I'm going to events that are just women or things like that. He's not my date. But it's even better because I have a partner I can come home to who rubs my feet, because he absolutely does that. Sometimes draws me a bath, because he also does that too. He'll put my towel in the dryer so that when I get out of the bath, it's nice and warm. And we cuddle and we talk about our day and we laugh and we watch silly TikToks and we talk about fostering kittens again someday and our dreams and our ideas. And that's worth way more than a fucking date at a Christmas party. Who's going to join me in the mature love game? It's kind of cool over here, everybody. I'm a fan. Let's do it. All right, guys, that's it for this week. What did you learn? If you liked this, if you loved it, please make sure you subscribe. Come check out reinventingdating.com. And one huge favor, please share this with the other singles that you know, so we can all reinvent dating together. Because when we know what love is, when we know our mindsets, when we understand how we work, we understand the skills, we can get in better relationships, period. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Until then, don't forget to meet love halfway.